Welcome to Mana's Seal YouTube channel. The previous video link is on the description box or on the top right card. Volume 15, The Half-Elf Godkin. Yet, the fact that there were some who could rival the supreme beings in power was undeniable. That was why their master, the only supreme being who stayed behind with them, was being cautious. I can understand Soma's caution because he is the one who has the most experience against them. I feel like there's no one like that here though. But I shouldn't be having such optimistic thoughts while Sama is being cautious. If there was someone who could rival supreme beings, even if they hid skillfully, they would be at least moderately famous, as long as they interacted with others. There were some similar existences in this world's history, but there were not even any rumors about such existences in this year. It's conjectured that this area was at the edge of the wider world, so information was hard to reach here. Demiurge said that we should continue to be on guard after all. He said that it was hard to stop the information about the birth of the Sorcerer Kingdom from leaking out, so when the information spread to the entire continent, they could finally confirm the presence or the absence of players. Therefore, as the floor guardians, they should keep their master's warning in mind. He also said that opponents were most likely to appear in the chaotic situation caused by war, and it would also be their chance to fish them out at the same time. We are not exactly on friendly terms with other races, but it's not like we are in a fierce conflict with them either. There are times when we stand in opposition, trying to occupy a safe place in this forest, but there are also times when we have to cooperate because the monsters are our common enemy. Are the monsters outside the forest strong? She felt like the question "Is that why you are strong too?" was hidden behind his words. Strong, I think. But maybe not that strong for me. As the man looked like he wanted to ask something, or interrupted him with a question of her own. It looks like you don't know about the world outside of the forest, but how long has it been since you people went outside? I heard from the elders that we came to this forest more than 300 years ago, but I have never heard about any dark elf who has headed out since that time. 300 years. You heard it from others. That's a weird way to put things. Uncle, weren't you already born 300 years back? Master of the Hunt's expression changed considerably for the first time. I am only a little bit over 200 years old. Aura suppressed her urge to take a long, hard look at the Master of the Hunt's face. 200 years. Is he trying to fudge the numbers? That, or the Dark Elves here count years differently. She thought he was lying, but she couldn't say that to his face. She could already feel his mood becoming more dejected. He was probably, certainly worried about it. Or it didn't feel like consoling him, but if she wanted a good relationship with him going forward, it would be better if she did. It's just that you exude this air of maturity, in a good way. No, don't mind it. It just shows how exhausting life in this forest is. Or it didn't reply to him. If that's how he was trying to swing it, staying silent was the utmost kindness she could show him. Fun, so don't you people feel like coming out of this forest? Like, to the country I live in? She was not clear about her master's intentions, but broaching this topic shouldn't have any faults. They could excuse it later as a joke if need be, since these were just the words of a child. Also, her master was not someone who would scold her for something as small as this. He would use message to tell her she did something he didn't want anyway. Maybe that's not a bad idea. You sound very reluctant. Our country is great, you know. It's pretty safe and monsters like the one that attacked before don't prowl out in the open. You will face a different kind of hardship if you do come, but you will also receive different kinds of support as well. You don't have to toil as hard as you do now. That sounds like a splendid country. I can feel how good it is from the way you speak about it. Even so, it's difficult to shed our unease. Unease about going to a new place, and unease about whether we can continue our present lifestyle there. Maybe it's because I am mostly fine with things as they are. I think it would be better to stay put rather than going to all that trouble. He replied earnestly to a child's irresponsible words. Maybe it was because he was a good and earnest person at his core, or maybe it was because he thought highly of Aura. Whatever the case may be, it looked like he would talk freely if she was the one to lead the conversation. A smile slowly took shape in Aura's mind. In that case, what if some people come over to test things out? That's not a bad idea too. Will they go or won't they? If they will, how many? If we end up having to decide about it, the elders' opinions will play a large role, though there are a lot of people who oppose the opinions of those three. The elders we are going to meet soon don't have enough clout in the village. The Master of the Hunt made a bitter expression. I don't hate them myself though. We are here. They arrived before a tree that looked the same as the others around it. I think you already know, but it's not that white inside. Let's call the elders out. Elders, we have a guest. He raised his voice a bit. Gradually, 3 dark elves appeared and climbed down from the hole in the tree. The group consisted of 2 men and a woman. Even though they were being called elders, they didn't look that old. When compared to humans, they looked like someone in the later part of their 30s. It's hard to guess the dark elves' ages from their appearance after all. I already made a mistake by calling this guy an uncle. Maybe I should have called him brother instead, but he really doesn't look all that different from these elders here. While Aura was having such idle thoughts, the dark elves that followed them fanned out into a semicircle behind her, surrounding them. Guest, these 3 are the elders of our village. Elders, let me introduce our guest to you. She was the one who fought back the Overlord, a traveler who came from a country where different races live together in peace, and where not many dark elves live in, a place beyond this forest. Aura bowed slightly at the master of the hunt's words. Though, instead of a bow, it's more like a nod. She felt like her future status in this village would be jeopardized if she gave in too much. Even if Aura was a child, she was also the savior of this village. It would be bothersome if she was taken lightly because of her age. Ain Sama's directions were to become friendly with them, so would it be bad if I acted like I am absolutely superior to them? I'm Aura Bellafiore. Pleased to meet you. Yumu. You have done well in coming here, sapling from far away, Aura Bellafiore. The man who stood in the middle, probably their representative, answered her with somber words. The gap between his appearance and his serious attitude was a bit striking, because he didn't really look that old. Someone in the group of dark elves surrounding them suddenly spoke in a voice just loud enough to reach everyone. Shouldn't you be thanking the village's savior first? And why are you referring to our benefactor without honorific so naturally? Yes, that's right. They shouldn't have greeted her like that if they were truly grateful. Maybe they're being arrogant because the other party is a girl. Some of the women raised their voices. Frankly speaking, Aura didn't think the elder's greeting was rude. This was probably what people meant when they say that the same action can look different for people with goodwill and for those without. The representative of the elders grimaced. We were just about to give our thanks now, Aura Bellafiore Dono. We are extremely grateful to you for repelling the Ankylos's lord and for saving our village. That's right. The youngling's impatience is troublesome. There exists an order for the conversation to follow. When the female elder who stood beside the representative said this, a woman somewhere else started murmuring. Your order of precedence is wrong in the first place. It would be bothersome if your brains are also getting fossilized as you grow older. Glancing at the master of the hunt, Aura found him making an expression as if he was having stomach pain. He was questioned about whose side he was on in the past, probably. The elder who stood on the right was also making a similar expression. The 2 other elders had grim expressions. The female elder began to direct her glare at the surrounding dark elves. Maybe I have to carefully consider which side I should be on before deciding my course of action. Normally, both factions would want to take in a powerful outsider like Aura. She needed to act in the way that was most beneficial to Nazarick. The best thing to do was to probably ask their master for his directions, but there would also be times when Aura might have to take independent action, because she couldn't just wait for their master's orders. Everything would be far easier if Ain Sama simply answered. One of the reasons why he hid his goals was because he wanted them, the members belonging to Ain Zulgaon, including the floor guardians, to grow, and was expecting them to be more autonomous. He wanted them to think and act on their own. But that's a heavy responsibility from Aura's point of view. Even if I make any mistakes, he likely intends to clean up after me with one of his usual awesome plans. But that didn't mean she was free to make mistakes. To act without thinking just because their master was going to cover for them would be nothing but disloyalty. As a floor guardian, as one of the aides on this mission, Aura had to think seriously and discover the path that would bring the most benefit to Nazarick. That was why Aura couldn't help but get exasperated at the Dark Elves bickering before her, showing their inner turmoil before a guest, in contrast to how serious she was. However, this was also a good opportunity. Depending on how she capitalized on this friction, it could turn out to be an important thing. Did Ain Sama aim for this? No, there's no way. He couldn't have known that this village was having such problems. Then, to follow his orders to create an amicable position inside the village, I should. Excuse me, are you intentionally trying to make me regret that I went to all that trouble over a long journey to come here? If not, can't you do this somewhere else without me? I would rather be shown things that I can boast about to my acquaintances from other races when I return back to my country, and say that the Dark Elves village is a good place. The place suddenly went silent, as if they were just splashed with cold water. A natural development. If they had felt even a little bit of shame at their actions just now, they certainly wouldn't want the news of it spreading to other races. Or felt like maybe she went too far. Even though she was the one who fought back the monster bear, being Killersis, she was still a child saying impudent things. She might have just turned both the factions against her, but she couldn't say that it was an absolute mistake either. Or it was a traveler who saved this village. If they were to forget that and criticize her despite showing their disgraceful side a few moments before, they could only be considered people without character. It would be better for such people to become their enemies instead of friends. Sure, her master ordered her to form an amicable relationship with the Dark Elves, but that didn't mean she had to be liked by all the Dark Elves. She couldn't see the full picture of his plans yet, but it would probably be better if the Dark Elves unsuitable for Nazarick were wiped out. And even if I turn one faction hostile, the other faction would probably try to make me their ally. I wouldn't mind that, and I can always make a third faction with me at its core if need be. Even if she ended up turning both of the factions into her enemies, she could see that there were people like the Master of the Hunt who didn't belong to either of them. She could make them her allies in the worst case scenario, but she would have to apologize to her master if she had to resort to that.